Rose, do you still remember me? Lucille gave her an evil look. What do you want? Open the door. Rose frowned and tried her best to open the door, but it was locked. Rose believed that William Chase, the president of the New York Merchant Union, had helped her family solve a problem brought on by Lucille's family. This gave Rose a lot of confidence and fueled her strong attitude toward Lucille. Rose! Susan embraced her with a worried look. She had the awful feeling that he was going to do something bad to them. Aren't you afraid that William Chase will cause trouble for your family? Rose was already scared, but she couldn't act too cowardly now. Otherwise, he would get even cockier, which would cause some more problems for them. Rose only wanted to use the mention of President Chase to scare Lucille away. Huh, Lucille snorted. He looked at her casually. It seems like your family doesn't get along that well with William Chase. Oh, what do you mean? Rose asked in surprise. He shook his head and laughed. Even though his family had already apologized to Rose's family, William Chase did not let them go. During that time, Chase had put a lot of pressure on one of their corporations, causing them enormous problems. Chase had misunderstood Ken Stokes' meaning and had also attacked Rose's family's business. Seeing that their own decline could not be reversed, Donald Brennan, Lucille's father, made a prompt decision. He decided to withdraw the assets of the family business from New York and seek a new base elsewhere. Lucille laughed because he and his father had guessed that it was a coincidence that William Chase had saved Rose's family. Now, seeing Rose, it seemed like she didn't know anything about the situation when her family was attacked by William Chase. If Rose's family was so close to William Chase, wouldn't he tell them about such an important matter? This meant that their guess was correct. Why are you laughing? Rose was puzzled. Why did it feel like it was a joke when she mentioned William Chase? Even if William Chase showed up here, what is there to be afraid of? Even though Lucille said this, he was still afraid of him. But his father had already decided to leave New York. So how could the head of the New York's Merchant Union still do anything to them? Give me back my phone. I'll call my dad right now and ask him to find Mr. Chase to seal your accounts. Rose still had not figured out the situation. He showed no mercy at all. This time Rose didn't dare say a word. Susan also felt a great sense of danger. She felt like she was destined to... Huff! Seeing that Rose had become humble, Lucille revealed a proud smile. His eyes didn't hide anything as he looked at them a few times. Then he turned around and started his car. Hey, hello, Rose? Alex said loudly to the phone, but it was already beeping with busy signal. Lucille. Alex couldn't help but frown. If Rose and Susan fell into Lucille's hands, the consequences would be unimaginable. He went to the surveillance room that watched over the night market and asked to see their surveillance footage. When the people on duty heard that his friends had gone missing, they played the footage from when the incident occurred. Alex saw the whole picture. He was shocked to see that the blind man who Rose and Susan had helped was the same person he had collided with earlier. This was obviously what Lucille had planned. It became clear that his motive for doing this wasn't simple. If Alex didn't rescue them as soon as possible, the result would be extremely bad. Realizing the urgency of the situation, Alex came out of the surveillance room and called Ken Stokes. Ken was the most effective and quickest way to deal with the situation. Alex, you don't have to be so anxious. I'll call Donald Brennan right now. He definitely won't dare touch your friends, Ken said, which helped to calm Alex. All right. Since Ken had said so, it meant that it wasn't going to be a big problem. You would definitely be able to resolve it properly. Alex calmed down a bit, and he hung up the phone. Less than 10 minutes later, Ken called him back. Sir, I couldn't get through to Donald Brennan's phone, but I found out that he wants to transfer all his assets to other places. Last time we used William Chase of the New York Merchant Union to warn him, and from the looks of it, his actions during that period of time were very abnormal. It's very likely that he's venting his anger and taking revenge out on Rose before he leaves New York, Ken said as his tone became heavier. Are you in New York now? I'll go to your place. Hearing Ken's uncertainty, Alex felt a pang in his heart, so he wanted to meet with him. After all, Joe had asked him to take care of Susan and Rose that evening. Yes, I'll send someone to pick you up right now. I'll do my best to search for the location of your friends, said Ken. 20 minutes later, stopped in front of Alex. He got in and went to meet Ken. At the same time, Lucille had already arrived at a small hotel on the outskirts of New York City. Lucille stopped the car, got out, opened the door, and pulled Rose out. The owner of the hotel was a familiar face to his family. He had already greeted them. So even if others saw him, who would dare to interfere? Get in. Lucille pushed the two girls into a room. Rose and Susan fell onto the floor as he closed the door. Susan and Rose stood up and saw an old man in a room who looked just like Lucille, but 30 years older. Dad, I did well today. I went to get Rose, but I didn't expect to get another one. She's not bad looking. Lucille walked over to his father, Donald, and looked at the two girls with a smile. That's great. When we get tired of one, we can swap. That's more fun. Donald scratched his chin. Both father and son exchanged lewd looks. At that moment, Donald no longer looked like a respectable businessman. Seeing the father and son pair, Rose and Susan were terrified. They hid in a corner of the room like a couple of frightened mice. Help! Someone save us! Susan shouted at the top of her lungs, followed by Rose. Call out again! Lucille impulsively walked in front of the two of them. Donald was actually smiling. He sat leisurely on the bed and smoked his cigarette. He looked at the two girls who were both looking back at him with anger and fear. You think that just because you shout for help, someone will save you? If that were the case, I'd just book a room in the city center. Why bother coming all the way out here? Let me tell you, if I opened the door and let others see you shouting in the room, they wouldn't dare do anything. Do you believe me? Donald didn't seem to be worried at all. Susan and Rose's hearts sank into despair. Rose's legs went limp, and she almost fainted. Donald chuckled. He looked at Lucille and said, Don't just stand there. Go take a shower. Let's get started. Lucille looked at his father with an evil smile and walked into the bathroom. They could hear him turn on the shower and the sound of water flowing. You all, what are you trying to do? Susan asked with a trembling voice. Huh? Donald revealed a surprised expression and then asked back, Men and women in the same room? What do you think we're doing, playing a board game? Susan's mind went blank as her entire body went limp. Rose's heart was beating fast like it was a countdown for her life. The sound of flowing water stopped. Susan and Rose's hearts missed a beat. Lucille came out while wiping his wet hair with a towel wrapped around his lower body. There were droplets of water on his firm muscles. No, I beg of you, please don't, Rose cried. She knelt on the ground and begged Lucille, Please let me go. I was wrong before. I won't dare do anything. Let me go. Let us go. We can compensate you in another way. This is against the law. Although she knew it wouldn't work, Susan also begged them. Now that I know you're regretting it, do you remember how you insulted me in front of everyone in the Angel Bar? I swore in my heart that I would get you back for that humiliation. Don't! Rose tried to back away while pleading, but a wall was behind her. Lucille grabbed her chin with his right hand. He leaned her forcefully against the wall and breathed in her smell. He inched closer and closer to her face as a trace of an evil smile appeared. Rose closed her eyes in fright. She had become a victim. Just when Donald was about to walk toward Susan, the room phone rang. Ring, 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 ring. Donald glanced at the phone in confusion. He had already told the hotel owner that he was going to be busy that night, so the hotel owner definitely wouldn't call him. Even if they had something to talk to him about, they would have just knocked on the door. Who would be calling now? This phone can only connect with the internal hotel line, he thought. Donald finally walked over to the phone and gently picked it up without saying a word. The other party on the phone spoke. "I'm Ken Stokes. No matter what you're doing to Miss Susan, stop now." Ken, Donald thought and shuddered at the sound of his name. He had naturally heard of Ken before, and that he was a reputable person. He also knew that no matter how rich or powerful a person was, they had to be respectful toward Ken. They would not dare to offend him. Donald had always wanted the opportunity to meet Ken, and he was never able to because of his limited status. He never expected that his first communication with Ken would be in this way. Donald was stunned. He swallowed hard. Although it was just a simple sentence, and he couldn't be sure that it was Ken who was on the phone, how many people could directly call a hotel's internal line through an external phone? Donald was also a veteran businessman. How could he not know from the sound of the man's voice whether the other party was playing dumb or not? "What is it? Are my words useless?" Ken asked in a deep voice. This sentence put Donald on alert. He now completely believed that the other party was Ken. "Yes, I will listen to your orders and stop," Donald said in fear. He gave Lucille a look, and he reluctantly let go of Rose. Rose bent over and started to vomit. Lucille didn't understand his father. Now that their family had decided to move, he did not need to be afraid, not even of the president of the merchant union. How could his father give in at the most crucial moment? "Did you do anything to them?" Ken asked. Sitting beside him, Alex was also paying close attention to what Donald was about to say. Donald was terrified. He glanced at Rose, who was bent over vomiting, and then at his hand, which was shaking while he held the phone. "Another girl. We didn't touch them," Donald said fearfully. He did not dare to lie to Ken at all. Hearing Donald's words, Ken looked at Alex. A trace of sadness flashed across Alex's face. He signaled Ken to do as he was told. "Fine. So long as Miss Susan is fine. I don't care about the other one. You can solve your problem if you want. The car that I sent to the hotel is almost there, so Miss Susan should leave now. If anything happens to her, I'll settle the score with you," Ken said lightly. Rose had said before that even if something happened to her, it would be none of Alex's business. He guessed that her treatment of Lucille was the main reason behind their abduction. Alex wanted to take this opportunity to teach her a lesson. Yes, I'll release her now," Donald hurriedly promised. After he said that, he hung up the phone. His forehead was covered in sweat. "Dad, who called? Why did you agree to release her?" Lucille asked his father with disappointment. He really couldn't think of anyone who could make his father so cowardly. "He's someone we can't afford to offend. Listen to me, hurry up and let her go." He might not be afraid of President Chase, but Ken was much more powerful. William could at most make it difficult for Donald in New York. But with Ken's power, it was still possible for him to not have anywhere to go in the entire country. What Donald couldn't imagine was the extent of the harm that Ken could cause him. "People we can't afford to offend? Dad, who exactly was it on the phone?" Lucille couldn't think of anyone that could make his father so scared. "Ken Stokes. You might not know him, but even the wealthiest person would be polite to him. William Chase is nothing compared to him." Donald's mood was now very troubled. Lucille had never heard of Ken before, so it was hard for him to believe that. Yet he had no choice but to believe that Ken was someone his family could not afford to offend, no matter what. He looked at Rose with eyes filled with hatred. "What are you looking at?" Rose straightened her body and glared at Lucille. Lucille's face was stinging, but he didn't dare to challenge her. If Ken got angry, his family would not be able to bear the consequences of his reaction. "What about you? You, shameless father and son, should be sent to jail." Rose looked at Lucille's face in anger. She did not hold back. "Rose, let's go." Susan felt that what Rose did was too dangerous. Rose only wanted to get out of the room. Susan, don't be afraid. Don't you see how scared Donald is? Even if they had twice the courage, they wouldn't dare do anything to us. Rose had seen Donald's attitude change to fear on the phone. This time they were saved by someone more important than William Chase. She wasn't afraid at all. There's also this old man, Rose said. Donald sneered. Ken had said on the phone that he only cared about Susan's safety. He didn't care about the other girl at all. Let go. Aren't you afraid that you'll get into trouble with Mr. Stokes? Rose said shyly as Donald grabbed her foot. Mr. Stokes only told us to let Miss Susan go. He doesn't care about you, Donald said. Hearing those words, Rose's face turned green. Really? Lucille got up from the ground and looked at his father in surprise. He walked to Rose's side and grabbed her wrist with one hand while sneering, "Show me your arrogance one more time." Rose was frightened half to death when she saw the father and son pair. She looked at Susan and said, "Susan, save me, save me." "Please let her go. Please don't hurt her," Susan pleaded with them. "Don't meddle in our business. You should leave now, quickly," Donald said politely to Susan, but she looked terrified. She was afraid that if she continued to stay, Donald and Lucille would change their minds and grab her too. She wanted to save Rose, but she could not do anything. So she ran out of the room in fear to go asking the police for help. She rushed out of the hotel in a fluster. It was at that moment that the man who had picked up Alex stopped in front of her. "Ah!" Susan jumped when the Mawsy stopped. She calmed down when a young man stepped out of the car and told her that Ken had sent them to pick her up. "I'm begging you, please save my friend. She's in there right now. I'm begging you, please save her," Susan urgently pleaded to the young man. We were ordered to only ensure your safety." The young man appeared to be in a difficult position. "I'm begging you, just help her." Susan fell to her knees with tears flowing from her eyes. "Please get up, I can't take it." The young man bent down to help Susan up, but she refused. He had no choice but to agree to her request. "All right, let's go save her," he said to another man in the car. Thank you, thank you." While Susan thanked him, another young man stepped out of the car and they ran toward the hotel. "How can I defend myself from two grown men?" she thought as she closed her eyes and burst into tears. The two strong young men broke into the room, kicked Donald and Lucille onto the ground, and pulled Rose up from the bed. It was as though she had been given a new chance at life. She didn't dare to brainlessly insult the father and son now. The two young men supported her by the arms and whisked her out of the room. "Rose, are you all right?" Seeing that Rose had been saved, Susan rushed over to comfort her. The two girls held each other until Rose gradually calmed down and stopped shaking. "Ladies, please get into the car now. We'll take you back," a young man said respectfully. "Oh, sorry to keep you waiting." Susan and Rose climbed into the car, and their attention gradually shifted to the expensive they were sitting in. This was the first time they had ridden in such a luxurious car. "May I ask why Mr. Stokes wants to save me?" Susan asked the young man sitting across from her. She was curious. As she had never seen Ken before, why would he protect her? Mr. Stokes is involved because of our boss." The man sitting opposite them was about to say more, but the man sitting in the front passenger seat coughed, turned his head to the side and said with a frown, "That's all you need to know." "Boss?" Susan and Rose were both curious. They continued to ask, "Who is your boss? Do you know who we are? What's his name?" "You don't need to ask those questions. Our task was to ensure that the two of you returned safely. As for the rest, we don't know anything." The young man gritted his teeth and did not dare to reveal any more information. Susan and Rose exchanged a glance. They both had a strange feeling. "What's this?" Susan's hand had carelessly brushed past the seat. She felt something. When she picked up the objects, she saw that it was a pair of woven bracelets. She looked at Rose in surprise and whispered, "Rose, Aren't these the bands that the old lady gave you and Alex at the night market? No. Rose thought about the night market where the old lady had mistaken her and Alex for a couple. Even though she saw that the bracelets were the ones from the old lady, she didn't want to admit it. Yes, they are. Susan pulled over Rose's hand and slid one of them onto her wrist. Look. Rose glanced at the bracelet on her wrist, but she was still unwilling to admit it. Sir, may I ask how these two bracelets got in the car? Susan asked a young man while holding the bands. I don't know. The young man snatched the bracelets from her hands. He could tell from Susan and Rose's conversation that the bracelets belonged to their boss and must have been accidentally dropped by him earlier. Since they belonged to their boss, they had to take good care of his belongings. The young man was in such a hurry that he scratched Susan's hand. She suspiciously looked at him nervously, putting away the bracelets. They must belong to Alex. Why is he so nervous? Could it be? She thought as her eyes moved slightly. Rose, we were lucky to have Mr. Stokes to help us this time, or else we would be in serious trouble. I really misjudged Alex. He was supposed to protect us, but it's really just as you said. He doesn't do anything. He runs away faster than anyone else. The expression on the face of the young man sitting in front of Susan changed drastically. I told you he's not reliable. Rose hated Alex. She went on about how Joe had told him to protect her, but he was nowhere to be found when she was in trouble. Rose hated Alex even more when she thought about how they had been kidnapped by Donald and Lucille. The young man turned his head to look outside the window. He did not want to hear any more of their conversation. Rose, the old lady even treated you two as a couple. Tell me the truth, what do you think of Alex? While Susan said this to her, she secretly observed the young man's reaction. Susan, why are you asking me this? Rose asked. Rose was ashamed. She held Susan's hand, and when she thought of Alex, she was filled with anger. He rushed into the First Republic Bank one day, crashed into me, and hit me on the head. When my family is in trouble, he doesn't really try to help. He only says, as an aside, that my problems will definitely be solved. The young man quickly turned his head and shot a cold glare at Rose. His fist also tightened slightly. What's wrong? Rose asked the young man anxiously, but he didn't say anything. Susan, tell me, why would any normal girl be attracted to, like Alex? Rose continued, but Susan interrupted her and changed the topic. Soon the car arrived at Preston University. Susan and Rose thanked the young men and expressed their gratitude to Mr. Stokes. They watched the car drive off into the distance before returning to campus. If it wasn't for Alex, we definitely wouldn't be so unlucky today. Rose looked at her torn clothes. Since she was no longer in any danger, she fell into her habit of blaming Alex. Susan had been thinking about something else, but when she heard Rose complain about him again, she couldn't help but pout. Rose, you're impossible, Susan sighed. Did you not notice anything just now? Notice what? Rose was quite puzzled. Are you talking about that? It really was comfortable. I'll get my future husband to buy one for me. That's not it. Susan was rendered a bit speechless by her attitude. She touched her forehead and said, Don't you think it's strange that the two bracelets were in the car? What's so strange about that? She didn't want to hear anything further about the bracelets. Rose became angry when she thought about Alex's shameless behavior when the old lady put the bracelets on them. Didn't you notice that when we mentioned Alex, the young men were deliberately avoiding us? Rose thought back to what Susan had said in the car and realized what she meant. She looked at Susan, who continued, When we were speaking ill of Alex, the young man sitting in the front of us was obviously unhappy. Do you remember that I had asked him about their boss who had ordered them to save us? The young man almost said something. You mean... Rose understood what Susan was trying to explain, but she quickly rejected that idea. How could this be possible? Don't blindly guess. How could Alex be their boss? Rose, stop lying to yourself. I know you must be suspecting something in your heart. Susan saw her disgusted expression and guessed what she was thinking. Actually, I also have a lot of doubts. Alex is obviously just an ordinary student. How could he be somebody's boss and also be a big shot like Ken Stokes? Susan paused to think for a while and said, But if it's true, he'll definitely be exposed. We'll observe him a bit more, and I believe we'll soon find out his true identity. Okay. Rose saw Susan's questioning gaze directed at her, so she could only nod. She was filled with suspicion and didn't want to believe that Alex had another identity. They walked toward the girls' dorm together. The drove back to Ken Stokes' location, and the young men entered his office. Alex and Ken were waiting for them. They had already heard the report over the phone that Rose and Susan were safely back at the university. Well done. Alex walked up to the men and patted them on their shoulders. Ken, who was behind them, also gave a satisfied smile. Sir, you're too kind. We're lucky to work for you, one of the young men respectfully said to Alex. He then took out the 2 bracelets from his pocket and placed them in front of Alex. Sir, you lost these in the car. We kept them for you. Good, okay. Alex saw the bracelets and felt his empty pocket. Then he understood and smiled calmly as he held them. Mr. Stokes, please take care of the things I've told you. It's getting late, so I'll be leaving now, Alex said while looking at Ken. He was referring to the search for Gabby. Yes, I'll do my best to search for you. Rest assured, I'll send for a car to take you back, Ken said respectfully and stood up. Alex had already walked toward the door and said leisurely, No need, I'll go back by myself. He hailed a taxi on the street. After the torment caused by Lucille, it was already 10 o'clock at night. Alex wanted to go back to the villa to rest. His phone rang and a name appeared on the screen. Angel Bar, June Douglas. Alex was surprised to see that the Angel Bar's manager was calling him, but he answered. Where are you? It's great that you have time to come to the bar to help. You've never once stopped by. Do you have the time now? Come to the bar and help me. June's annoyed voice came over the phone. Oh, I'm sorry. I've been too busy with my studies. I can't tonight. I'll go now. Alex thought that the Angel Bar might be busy, so that's why June had called him to help. He had become a waiter at the bar without intending to, and had promised to help when he had the time. He had no reason to refuse. All right, hurry up, exclaimed June with annoyance. Alex hung up the phone and got the driver to take him to the Angel Bar. Soon, Alex arrived at the bar. It was as he had imagined. It was filled with people, likely due to graduation. Even walking into the bar was a bit difficult. June, I'm here. Alex finally found her, as she was busy toasting with the guests. He shouted at her so she could hear him over the noise. Don't just stand there. Ask the supervisor for a set of clothes. Hurry up and greet the guests, June instructed loudly and then walked over to toast another guest. After Alex changed his clothes, he got busy with work. He was responsible for delivering drinks and snacks and for sending off the customers. Most of the guests were students, so they quickly left after midnight. When the last person departed shortly before 1 in the morning, everyone finally felt relieved. Everybody, start cleaning up and don't be in such a hurry to leave. The boss wants to come over and see us all. We won't delay you for too long. All right, let's get started, June said to the staff. Alex didn't stay idle either. He checked to see if the power supply for the ice machine and other electrical appliances were in order. When everyone was done, 10 or so young staff members gathered and chatted while rubbing their aching legs. The sound of high heels hitting the pavement came from outside, followed by an alluring figure that walked into the bar. She exuded the charisma of a mature woman. Her walk alone was enough to make one's imagination run wild. It was the owner of the Angel Bar, Vivian Carter. When they saw their boss had entered, the staff all stood up from their chairs to show their respect. Vivian waved her hands amiably and said, Everyone sit down. We're all family. No need for formalities. June, give everyone a margarita. Okay. June waved at Alex and another waiter and said, You two go pour some drinks. They both went to the bar to pour margaritas. They each filled their trays and walked toward the group. Everyone gazed at Alex, who handled his tray awkwardly and spilt a drink. "It's all right, just clean up the spill and then bring a few more drinks over," Vivian said to him casually. "Okay," Alex answered and cleaned up as she had instructed. He then went to bring out a few more drinks. This time he didn't make any mistakes. Alex found a seat and sat down. He let out a sigh of relief as he looked at Vivian, who was sitting gracefully in front of the crowd. He felt both grateful and impressed. She had resolved his embarrassment with a simple sentence. Vivian, June, and the staff were sitting together having a good time in the bar's relaxed atmosphere. "All right, I won't waste any more of your time talking. Let's go home to sleep," Vivian said suddenly with a serious expression. "I've already made an agreement to sell this place to someone from the city. In a few days, he'll take over the bar," Vivian said to everyone with a calm smile. But her news was so shocking that it caused a commotion among the staff. "Vivian, we won't let the new boss in," one of them cried out. "Don't sell the Angel Bar, don't," said another. They had a mixture of sad and excited looks on their faces. Vivian and June had treated them well at the Angel Bar. Hearing that it had already been sold, they felt as if their home was gone. Alex was also very shocked. He had thought about buying the bar before, but too many things had happened recently, and he had forgotten about it. He didn't expect Vivian to move so quickly. She had already discussed it with someone else. "Stop screaming. Do you think Vivian is happy to sell the bar? She probably feels worse than you guys," June told the agitated staff. Vivian had been discussing the sale of the bar with her, so she understood how hard it had been for her to make this decision. June was interrupted by Vivian. She could understand the feelings of her young staff. "I know that everyone is reluctant to part with the bar. I still remember when I interviewed each of you. I even promised you on the night before the opening that I would give you all a promotion and a raise sometime after 3 years. Vivian recalled the scenes from her past. Tears welled up in her eyes, and her voice became choked with sobs. "But I didn't fulfill my promise to you all. It's my fault. I'm sorry, everyone." Vivian bowed deeply to her young staff. "I don't blame you," said one. "Vivian, please don't be like this," said another. "Vivian, we love you," said another. All the youngsters crowded around to comfort her. "All right, thank you, everyone, thank you." Vivian was very touched. With tears in her eyes, she looked at the staff around her and said, "You guys should think about it for the next few days. If anyone wants to keep working here, tell June, and I'll try talking to the new boss." Vivian had found a way out for her staff. It could be said that she had done her best. "Yo, I've heard that Angel Bar isn't bad. Hey, looks pretty good," a young man said with a chuckle as a few people walked in from outside. Although he was wearing a baseball cap, a scar that ran from his forehead to the corner of his eye was still visible. Next to him were 4 cynical-looking men that looked like him, with crooked smiles on their faces. Vivian was obviously a bit fearful when she saw the young man, and her gaze even showed traces of hatred. Alex was also surprised as he recognized the group of men. He remembered that day when they had blocked his path on the street, and he had driven toward them, forcing them to scatter and knocking some of them down. It was that day that he had mysteriously helped Kelly Phillips. Looking carefully at the young man with the baseball cap, Alex guessed that he was Henry Moore, who had been pestering Kelly. At Simon Phillips' birthday party, Simon had mentioned that Henry had been looking for revenge. Alex couldn't help but hide in the crowd, but his eyes were still fixed on Henry, observing his every move. "I'm sorry, we've closed for the night. Please come back tomorrow," a supervisor politely said with a smile as he walked over to Henry and the others. "Hey, the customer's already come in, so I chase him out. I think you need to stop working here." Henry barely looked at the supervisor. Instead, he and a few of his lackeys sat down with a grunt. Henry glanced at the supervisor in disdain and then turned his gaze to Vivian. When Henry and the others sat down, the staff realized that someone had been standing behind them. This person looked extremely thin and weak and had been hidden by Henry's group. What was even more surprising was that he wore a white mask on his face, making him look like a mannequin. The supervisor had some status in the bar, so he was quite miffed after being scolded by Henry in front of so many people. "Oliver, shut up," Vivian shouted. "Vivian, it's fine if you don't entertain such a person," Oliver said to Vivian in embarrassment and anger. As Oliver turned toward Vivian and spoke, Henry struck him on the back of the head. Only the little masked man was standing firmly behind Henry. These people had strange hairstyles, gold chains, silver rings, and a ferocious look on their faces, causing the young men to lose some of their courage. "Sit down," Vivian said with a frown to her staff in a low voice. Everyone was still unwilling to accept it, but they finally sat down after she said it again. They cast their resentful gazes toward Henry and the others. Vivian took a deep breath and turned to Henry. "Henry, please let him go." Vivian was very reluctant to talk to him, as she didn't even know him. A few days ago, he had introduced himself to her and invited her out to dinner. He also invited her to a movie. How could Vivian not see his intentions? However, Henry still followed her around. She understood that he was also from a wealthy and powerful family, so she was helpless to do anything. "Release him? He just wanted to attack me. How can I, Henry, lose face in front of my friends?" Henry said in amusement. His foot ground down on Oliver's face twice. Oliver let out cries of pain. The young men in the bar shuddered slightly, feeling extremely anxious. Vivian's frown deepened as she tried to think of a way to save the supervisor. "What do you want to do?" Vivian stared at Henry and asked. She was very nervous. It seemed that Henry had come with ulterior motives that day. He casually took out his nail clippers and said lightly, "It's very simple. I came to the bar for a drink. As long as I can have my drink, I'll leave. As for this thing under my feet, it's not even worth a dime as I see it. Bring them a drink," Vivian said to the staff at the bar. The waiters glared at Henry and his companions and were about to go to the bar to serve the drinks. "Wait a minute, Vivian. My friends and I are here to cheer you on, but we won't be able to enjoy ourselves if a few pretty boys serve us drinks. It's not like you don't have any girls in here, so let the pretty girls serve the drinks. Then your guests will be better entertained." Henry looked at his fingernails under the light. Everyone, including Vivian, let out a dissatisfied sigh. However, if they wanted to send this evil guy away, they could only do as he wanted. "Girls, come with me to get some drinks to entertain our guests." Vivian ordered 4 girls to go to the bar. Each of them held a glass as they walked toward Henry and the others. Seeing Vivian and the 4 girls walk toward them, an evil glint appeared in Henry's eyes. "Henry, please." Vivian presented him with a drink. Watching him staring at her, she was both nervous and disgusted. She just wanted him to leave quickly. "Fine, I'll drink. How can I dare let Vivian down?" His gaze never left her face as his hand slowly reached out toward the glass. The moment he was about to grab it, he grabbed her hand instead. She shook violently, causing the glass to fall and shatter on the ground, while he tightly grasped her hand. The girls screamed out in shock at the same time. "Let me go! What are you doing? Ah!" Vivian screamed in terror. She felt her balance slip as she fell into someone's arms. "What am I doing? What can I do?" He looked down at Vivian's beautiful face. He was already unable to endure his feelings for her. "Ah! Let me go!" Seeing Henry's face looking down at her, Vivian was so scared that she closed her eyes and struggled crazily to free herself from his arms. And it wasn't only her. The 4 waitresses were also struggling fiercely to get away from Henry's friends. The scene was chaotic and everyone watching was horrified. "Damn it, let go!" shouted Vivian. The boyfriends of the 4 girls who had been serving drinks were also present. Naturally, they were enraged when they saw their girlfriends being manhandled, and the rest of the boys watching were all hot-blooded men in their 20s. Of course, they all felt indignant in being ordered around by these bullies. Without any warning, a few guys bellowed and rushed toward Henry and his friends. Henry and the others were shocked and immediately let go of the women that they were holding. As some young guys rushed toward Henry, his 4 friends stood in front of him, yelling at them and hoping to scare them off. unable to fight back. Henry's friends screamed as they were getting pummeled by the flying furniture. They only managed to hit the young guys a couple of times. A few minutes later, Henry's friends conceded that they couldn't protect him. All they could do was squat on the ground with their arms over their heads to protect themselves. "Beat up their leader," shouted one of the young guys. His friend agreed. Henry was terrified as he sat hugging his head and shouting, "Slayer, save me!" The youngsters didn't care who this man was. They had no interest in understanding anything about him. They just knew they wanted to get their revenge. Then two of the young guys suddenly let out cries of pain. The others turned around and saw that their friends were lying on the ground. Then others started falling. Before they could work out what was happening, half of them were lying out on the floor. It was the little man in the mask. This masked aggressor seemed to be some sort of martial arts expert who knew exactly what he was doing. Each time he attacked someone so quickly that they weren't able to dodge him or fight back. He was like an unstoppable ninja. Less than 2 minutes later, not a single young man was still fighting. Some were still lying on the ground moaning. Others were not hurt, but they were too in awe of this man to keep fighting. They watched him meekly, some holding their injuries. No one dared to take another step forward. Slayer walked to Henry's side and said, "Boss?" Everyone was surprised to hear him address him in this way. "Are you stupid? Your boss has been beaten up, yet you're just standing there watching the show? Damn you!" Henry shouted at him and thumped his head as hard as he could. Slayer lowered his head. He was not tall to begin with, but now he looked even smaller. He had defeated more than 10 people single-handedly. The onlookers were surprised to witness such a strong person behaving so subserviently in front of Henry. All this time, Alex had been observing Slayer from the back of the crowd. He saw that he was dressed in fashionable but worn clothes that had been given to him by Henry. And the fact that Slayer was wearing a white mask only added to his odd appearance. Alex also noticed that his hands were yellow, and his nails were long and dirty. He had a crew cut, and 2 bald patches were visible on his head, giving the impression that he was sick. What kind of person is he? Alex wondered. Everyone there had the same question on their minds. Henry looked down at Slayer and ordered loudly, "I'll let you off this time. You can be useful at crucial moments. Remember, if you ever see me in danger, you must immediately come out and protect me. Do you understand?" "Understood," Slayer answered timidly. When the others heard his meek voice, it was hard for them to imagine that he was the same violent man that they had just witnessed. Henry looked at the young people eyeing him nervously, and he shouted arrogantly, "You just try it." Seeing that they were all scared of him, he bragged confidently, "You're nothing but a bunch of cowards. If any of you dares to interfere with my business again, don't think I'll let you off so lightly. Come out if you're not afraid of death. Come on then." The young men had heard many stories, and they didn't doubt that this angry man meant what he said. He was an arrogant person from a powerful family. He also had the ruthless masked attacker under his command, who clearly would stop at nothing to please his employer. None of them dared to challenge him. Seeing that no one dared to cross him, Henry shifted his gaze to Vivian, who shuddered and took a step back. Henry walked toward her with a sinister smile. Everyone watching could guess his intentions, but no one dared to intervene. They were ashamed and lowered their heads, as if they would feel better if they couldn't see what was happening in front of them. Vivian leaned against a table. Her hand was resting on it as she looked at Henry in fear. Her mind was trying to think of a way to solve the problem. But as he walked up to her smiling wickedly, only panic remained in her mind. Watching the scene, Alex was also struggling to work out what he should do. If he tried to intervene now, he would be putting himself at risk. He had hurt Henry in the past and had hindered his relationship with Kelly. He knew that he couldn't battle both him and the guy in the mask. Henry walked over to Vivian. He grabbed her hands and Looking at her terrified face with a cruel smile, Vivian screamed out in terror. "Let me go! Help! Save me!" "Come on, baby," Henry said in mock adoration. He lifted Vivian onto the table and started. Suddenly, a figure flew out from the crowd and, pushing himself off the shoulders of the two people next to him, leapt high into the air. Looking like Henry screamed in pain and fell to the ground. Vivian also fell off the table on the floor. "Vivian, are you okay?" her savior asked. It was Alex. When he had seen that she was going to be molested by Henry, he had rushed out of the crowd without stopping to worry about the consequences. After kicking Henry, he went straight over to help Vivian up and check if she was all right. "I'm fine," Vivian replied. She only had a small injury to her arm. She and Alex both looked fearfully at Henry. He had fallen heavily onto the ground when Alex kicked him. He got up with a groan, and a clear shoe print was evident on his face. He frowned from the pain, and as he looked around him, he saw that it was Alex who had kicked him. His friends instantly recognized Alex and spoke to Henry excitedly. One said to him, "Henry, that's the same guy from the other day." "Yes, it's the same one," agreed another. "You little... so it's you," Henry said angrily. He gave Alex a look of pure hatred. He, Henry, had never been assaulted twice by the same person like this. "Slayer," he roared, still glaring at Alex. "Yes, sir," Slayer replied as he quickly walked to Henry's side, which made his arms start hurting. "Ouch!" the little man screamed. "You're supposed to be protecting me. Do you understand?" "Understood, sir," Slayer answered meekly. "Don't be afraid. My family will get you out of any trouble." He took a dagger from one of his friends and handed it to Slayer. They all carried daggers, which they used to scare people with. "Go." He pointed at Alex and pushed Slayer toward him. Slayer unsheathed the dagger. His eyes peeked out from his mask and stared at Alex as he slowly approached him. The others in the room were panicking. The girls were clenching their fists and the men were anxiously wondering what to do. They all wanted to help Alex, but the dagger in Slayer's hand stopped them from getting involved. Vivian was frightened. She held Alex's arm tightly and asked him helplessly, "What should I do?" Alex didn't say anything as he stared at Slayer, who was walking over. He slowly moved Vivian behind him. "What are you doing?" Vivian asked him anxiously. Alex simply moved her out of the way. She wanted to go back to try and help him, but someone else stopped her. Alex looked at Slayer with respect for his skill, but also with pity. He pitied him because he couldn't understand why he would want to be a lackey for someone as evil as Henry. When Slayer was 2 yards away from him, Alex noticed his eyes freeze for a moment. Alex suddenly thrust his hand toward him from behind. In his hand, he also held a knife. Before rushing out in Vivian's defense, Alex had slipped behind the bar looking for a weapon with which to confront her assailants. He was aware of Slayer's martial arts skills and knew that when he attacked him, his opponent would not hold back at all. Slayer tried to dodge his attack, but Alex was too fast. The dagger in his hand fell to the ground with a clanging sound. When they saw the vicious wound that Alex had inflicted on Slayer, everyone was shocked. When the girls saw the blood, they screamed and threw themselves into their boyfriend's arms. Henry and his friends were also stunned. They'd wanted to watch a good fight, but certainly hadn't predicted this result. Henry started to panic a little. "What are you waiting for? Call the police," Alex growled at the bartender. Several of the surrounding boys responded by taking out their phones to dial 911. Seeing that the police had been called, Henry shouted to his friends, "Hurry up, we need to go." He led them as quickly as he could out of the bar. None of them stopped to check on Slayer. Holding his injured shoulder, Slayer tried to leave, but he was blocked by the young men in the bar. Alex saw what was happening and said to the men, "Let him go." Anyone could tell that he was only doing what Henry ordered him to do, and Alex didn't hold him responsible at all. They all made way for Slayer, who slowly walked out of the bar clutching his injured shoulder. When Alex saw that Henry and his friends had finally left, he let out a long sigh of relief. The people at the bar tidied up a bit, bid their farewells to Vivian, and then left one by one. Vivian had been sitting beside Alex watching what was happening. She had expressed her gratitude to him for saving her, and had personally applied ointment to his injuries. She accompanied him to the exit as he was about to leave. "Take care, see you later," she said as she waved goodbye to him. The movement aggravated her elbow injury, and she flinched with the sudden pain. Alex heard her gasp and asked, "Are you okay?" As he quickly walked back over to her, he looked at her elbow and saw that it was purple with bruises. He guessed that even a slight movement would cause her a lot of pain. Vivian smiled slightly and replied, "It's fine. I'll go back and put some cream on it." She didn't want to hold him up. Alex looked at her red parked in front of the bar, frowned, and asked Vivian, "How will you get home?" She realized that she couldn't drive at all and replied, "I can't drive, but I can get a cab. Please don't worry about it." "Give me the key," Alex requested. "Why do you want the key?" Vivian asked as she fumbled for her car keys. He took them from her and helped her walk over to the barn. "Let's go, I'll take you home," he said. Following her directions, Alex drove them to Vivian's home and helped her into the living room. He asked her where he could find her medicine cabinet and brought some ointment to apply to her elbow. As she sat on the sofa in the living room, Alex held her arm and carefully applied the balm. Watching Alex's meticulous concentration and remembering how he had risked his life to save her in the bar, Vivian's feelings for him started to grow. She felt happy and a little giggly. While she was daydreaming about him, Alex was engrossed in his thoughts. He felt a sudden gust of air on his face, and as he looked up, he glimpsed a black shadow smashing down toward his head. He dropped Vivian's hand and dodged to the side. "Monica, no!" Vivian shouted loudly. Luckily, Alex was able to get out of the way in time, and the missile had missed him. When he stood up to see what had happened, he saw a 12 or 13-year-old girl in pajamas holding a rolling pin. He realized that she had thrown the rolling pin at him and missed, then grabbed it from the floor and rushed toward him again, brandishing it in her hand. "Monica, what are you doing?" Vivian asked the girl as she grabbed her and held her still in her arms. "He's a bad man. He bullied you. I'm going to kick him out," the girl replied, glaring at Alex. If it wasn't for Vivian hugging her, she would have still rushed over to hit him. Alex realized that she looked and sounded very childish, and deduced that she must be younger than he first thought. Vivian hugged her and tried to calm her down, but she didn't want to listen. Finally, Vivian's patience ran out. She let go of the girl and pointed at Alex, saying, "Go on then, go and hit him. Do what you want." She sat back down on the sofa helplessly, looking very sad and angry. "Mom, I'm not hitting him anymore. Please don't get mad at me. Look, I'm not hitting him." She threw the rolling pin down and sat beside Vivian, cuddling up to her and looking at her pleadingly. Vivian asked her, "Are you really not going to hit him anymore?" She replied, "I promise I won't, Mom. Please, don't be angry with me." She was still afraid that Vivian would punish her. "All right. As you're being so obedient now, I won't be angry," Vivian said as she hugged her. Then she looked at Alex and said, "Come over here." He walked over and sat in front of Vivian and Monica, noticing that although the girl was pretty, she looked nothing like her mother. He also thought that the girl looked a little dazed. Vivian addressed her daughter. "Monica, I'll introduce you. This is Alex. He's a good friend of your mom's. When you see him in the future, you mustn't be as rude as you were today. Do you understand?" "Okay," she replied without much interest. Alex nodded to her in a friendly manner. However, it was clear that she was only pretending to agree. The look she gave Alex was filled with hostility. Vivian sighed helplessly. "Did we wake you up?" she asked the child. "Come on, Mom will take you back to bed." "Alex, wait here," she continued as she held Monica's hand and led her toward one of the bedrooms. "Mom, tell me a bedtime story. Otherwise, I won't be able to sleep. Tell me the story of that astronaut who went up to heaven." Okay. The astronauts were floating in the space station. Outside the porthole was the vast space. Suddenly, the astronaut heard a da-da sound coming from outside the porthole. "Oh no, ghosts! I'm scared! Is there a ghost outside the porthole?" Alex could hear Vivian and Monica talking in the bedroom. Sitting on the sofa, he couldn't help but smile. After about 10 minutes, Vivian gently closed the door and walked back into the living room. She went over to Alex and apologized for Monica's rudeness. "I'm truly sorry for what happened," she said. "It's all right, Vivian. Is Monica your daughter?" Alex asked. He couldn't figure out who she was. Although she called Vivian Mom, she didn't look anything like her. He was sure that the relationship wasn't that straightforward. "Monica is a child I adopted. She has learning disabilities. Although she's 13 years old, she has an intellectual age of 3 or 4. As she spoke, she looked a little sad. "I understand," replied Alex, feeling sorry for Monica. "Did she hit me because I did something to upset her?" he asked. This was the first time that Alex had met Monica. He was trying to work out why she seemed to hate him so much. Vivian smiled uneasily. "It's nothing. She was probably scared because she woke up in the middle of the night and found a stranger in the house." "Really?" Alex sensed that Vivian was hiding something from him, but he didn't push her anymore. He stood up and said, "I should leave." "It's already so late. I think you should just stay here for the night. We have a guest room. It won't be a problem," Vivian replied, urging him to stay. It was almost 3 in the morning, so he agreed to stay the night. The next day, Alex woke up early. Vivian had already prepared breakfast for him and Monica. While they were sitting at the table eating, Alex noticed that Monica was still glaring at him. However, now that he understood her situation, he felt pity for the child. After breakfast, she begged Vivian, "Mom, I want to go out and play." "Not today, Monica. I haven't got time. You'll have to wait for 2 more days, then I'll take you to the amusement park," Vivian replied as she patted her head to comfort her. The child appeared to be very disappointed. Alex couldn't bear to see her so upset, so he suggested, "Vivian, I think there's an outdoor gym down the road. Why don't I take Monica there to play for a while?" Vivian agreed. If he took Monica out for a while, she could get on with some work. Although Monica didn't like him very much, she wanted to go out, so she was happy to go to the gym with him. When they got there, she didn't seem to know how to use any of the equipment, so he showed her what to do. This made her start to like him a little. When she saw him do 30 repetitions on a piece of equipment with spinning wheels, her eyes lit up. She clapped her hands and jumped up in excitement. Without her realizing it, Monica's hostility toward Alex had gone, and her heart was filled with affection for him. "I want to ride a big horse," she told him excitedly. "To ride a big horse?" he asked in confusion. She walked up to him and told him to crouch down. Then, without any hesitation, she climbed onto his back, happily patted his head and said, "Go, boy." Alex was speechless. This must be what she means by riding a big horse, he thought. Monica slapped her palm on his head and said, "Yeah, go!" And Alex, the dignified heir of one of the wealthiest and most powerful families in the world, was bullied into action by a 13-year-old girl. After he had walked for 100 or 200 yards, Monica finally climbed off him and let him stand up straight. He felt gratified that the hostility in her eyes was gone. The morning's torture had been worth it. When Vivian saw Alex and her daughter Monica returning, it was clear to her that they were now friends. She was surprised, And although she couldn't work out how it had happened, she felt very happy. Alex left Monica with Vivian and went away. The next 3 days passed by as usual. Ken Stokes still hadn't heard anything useful about Debbie. Alex went to Ramsey Lake every day and sat on the rock where he and Debbie had once eaten seafood risotto together. He looked at the lake in a daze. With Debbie still missing, her classmates at Preston University graduated without her. Alex watched them dragging their luggage behind them as they left the school for the final time. As they celebrated their successes and praised each other on their grades, Alex's pain deepened. One particular day, he was sitting on the rock staring blankly at the lake when Vivian called. She asked, "Alex, are you busy right now? If you're not, can you do me a favor?" "I'm not busy. What is it?" Alex answered. In the background, he could hear Monica crying. "I wondered if you could help me by taking Monica out to play today. I was hoping to take her myself, but the man who is taking over the bar called me unexpectedly, saying he needs to discuss the details with me this morning. I tried to explain it to Monica, but she refused to listen," Vivian said worriedly. "No problem. I'll come at your place now. Then you'll be free to do what you need to do," Alex said. He ended the call and stood up to leave. He felt a bit worried about Monica after hearing her anguished crying over the phone. As he left the university campus, he stood at the intersection to find a cab. He suddenly felt that something was wrong behind him, but when he turned around to take a look, he couldn't see anything unusual. He shook his head doubtfully as a cab pulled up next to him. He climbed in and headed to Vivian's home. When he arrived, Vivian thanked him profusely. She asked him to take Monica to the amusement park and then to the Sunrise Special Education School, where she could play with the other children. "Why there?" Alex asked. He was happy to take Monica to the amusement park, but he couldn't understand why she wanted him to take her to a special school. He assumed the other children there would also have learning disabilities. Vivian replied, "Because there, Monica is equal to the others. No one will look at her with discrimination, pity, or mockery. She can feel normal there." She looked sad. In the past, she had taken Monica to many different places, but when people saw that Monica was lacking in intelligence, they always looked at her with pity. "I understand," Alex thought. He always looked at Monica with pity too. They spoke for a few minutes, then Alex and Monica left. They took a cab and went to the city's amusement park. The amusement park had all kinds of fun rides and other attractions. Together, they went on the pirate ships, tried the sledgehammers, and rode the carousels. They spent several happy hours at the park, and Monica spent the whole time laughing and cheering. Alex was filled with joy when he looked at her gleeful face. After eating lunch, then resting in the shade for an hour, they made their way to the Sunrise Special Education School. It was a private school and was worlds apart from the city primary school. It was not run for profit, but purely to help these children with learning disabilities. Alex took Monica to the school field. He watched the other children as they approached. Their ages ranged from about 6 to 13, but all were behaving as if they were much younger. As soon as Monica arrived at the sports field, she broke away from Alex and ran toward a group of children. It was obvious that she had been there many times before. She went over to a small group of kids, and they started chatting like old friends. They seemed like normal adolescents from a distance, but the contents of their conversation was more typical of much younger children. Monica was saying to her friends, "My mom is always too busy to bring me here. She's busy doing $1,000 business deals. Otherwise, I would have flown over on a big plane to see you guys a long time ago." "Big plane? What are you bragging about? That's nothing. I came here by steamer the last time. Your family is so much worse off than mine. At most, you can drive a Rolls-Royce," bragged one of the boys. Another said, "Monica, my family just moved to the Himalayas. When I have time, I'll invite you to my house to be a guest, and you can eat tiger meat." Monica seemed so natural and relaxed. Alex had never seen her looking so comfortable. He felt a tinge of sadness for her. 20 minutes later, he heard a scream and a boy's voice shouting, "Don't run, you stinky Monica! I'll beat you to..." When Alex looked around, he saw that Monica was running toward him as fast as she could. She hid behind him and gasped for breath as she looked at the boy who was chasing her. The boy saw that she was hiding behind Alex and stopped running. Alex was afraid that she had been hurt, so he quickly pulled her to him and checked her body nervously, asking, "What did he do to you? Let me see, it's okay," he said softly as he gently hugged her. Monica let out a soft moan, which surprised him. He rolled up her sleeves and then looked at her waist. There was a purplish-red bruise on it. Alex got angry when he saw it. He was about to grab the boy who had been chasing her. "Alex, where are you going?" Monica asked as she rubbed the bruise. "He was the one that did you up, so I'm going to get him to apologize," he replied. "Oh," Monica said. Then she paused for a moment before laughing out loud. "But he wasn't the one who put me." Alex stopped and walked back over to her. "Who hit me then?" Monica suddenly felt at a loss. She lowered her head, and a few seconds later, 2 tears rolled down her cheeks. "Monica, don't cry, it's all right." Seeing her like this, his heart sank. He held her and tried to comfort her. "Monica, tell me who hit you. I promise I can sort it out." Her eyes and nose were red, and she looked pitiful. Looking into his eyes, she felt warm inside. "I don't know who they are. These men sometimes come to our house at night. They hug Mom for ages, and it makes me really scared. So last time I hit the man, but he hit me back. And then he hit Mom and dragged her into her bedroom and locked the door so I couldn't get in. I heard Mom shouting inside, and I was so scared." When Monica remembered what had happened, she was so frightened that more tears streamed down her cheeks, and her chest heaved up and down. She pulled up her sleeves and the legs of her shorts. And here, this is where they hit me." On Monica's snow-white skin, Alex could see lots of scars and bruises. He was horrified. "Does your mom have bruises too?" he asked as he helped her to straighten her clothes. "Yes, she's got more than me, and she cries every night." "Do you remember what this man looked like?" His heart was filled with anger. "It's a different man every time. I can't remember them all. That's why I was so scared when you came to the house the first time. I thought you wanted to hit Mom and drag her into the bedroom. That's why I hit you." "It's all right, I understand. I'm not going to let anyone bully you anymore," he said, and he patted her head as he began to think about how he could protect this girl and her mother. "Alex, let me go. I want to apologize to my friend. We were just playing a game. I shouldn't have pretended that I was so scared." Monica recovered her composure. She smiled at Alex and ran toward the little boy. Watching her holding the boy's hand and apologizing, Alex became lost in thought. Vivian seemed so bright and confident that he was shocked to find out about what she was going through. Then he heard a cheerful voice. He looked up and saw Vivian smiling at him. "I'm done with my work, so I've come to meet you both. Thank you so much for today," she said. "It was a pleasure," he replied. He looked at her with increased respect. "Where's Monica?" she asked as she looked around the field. "Playing with the kids over there," he replied, pointing toward the location where he'd just seen Monica with her friend. His voice stopped abruptly as he saw that she had vanished. He looked around the field, but he couldn't see her anywhere. He quickly stood up and ran toward the little boy who she'd been playing with. He grabbed the boy's shoulder and asked him anxiously, "Where's Monica?" "Her father just came and collected her," the little boy said with a relaxed smile. Alex looked anxiously at Vivian and saw that she was on the verge of tears. She was mumbling to herself, Who would pretend to be your father? When was this? He asked the little boy again, but the boy was struggling to explain himself properly. Don't be afraid. Come on, follow me, he said to Vivian, trying to console her. They went to the school CCTV control room and asked the security guard to play back the film of Monica being carried away. On the screen, they could see two middle-aged men waving to her from the school's side gate. One of them was waving a candy bar at Monica, and when she saw this, she happily ran over to them. When she reached the gate, the other man quickly grabbed her and covered her mouth. Then two men ran off with her in their arms. I'm so sorry, Alex said to Vivian. At that moment, he hated himself. Vivian couldn't hide her grief as she howled, Shut up! You being sorry isn't helping anything. I only want my daughter back. Tears were streaming from her eyes. You call the police right now. I'm going to find her and get her back, Alex said. His gaze sharpened as he ran outside. Vivian called the police and then ran out of the school behind Alex. After leaving the school, Alex ran in the direction in which he'd seen the two criminals escaping on the CCTV. Using his intuition to decide which way to go, he ran for more than a kilometer. At a narrow intersection, he paused as he suddenly heard faint curses and moans. His gaze focused as he ran toward the noises. He saw two men standing beside a van. It's them, Vivian whispered. She had followed Alex, and she recognized the two men from the CCTV film. They were the ones who had taken Monica. Both men had pained expressions on their faces. One was holding himself around the waist, and the other was rubbing his head. It looked as if they had both just been beaten up. Alex didn't hesitate as he rushed toward them. He screamed, "You!" When the men saw Alex charging toward them, clearly wanting to fight with them, their first instinct was to feel insulted but amused. He was clearly very young and no match for them. "What's this?" one of them asked his buddy. "What the hell?" said the other. Before they could get into position, Alex had hurtled up and kicked one of them. The man fell instantly to the ground. "Where's the little girl?" Vivian had already searched the van, but there was no sign of her. "What are you talking about? We don't know anything about a little girl." The man didn't know that Alex had already seen the surveillance cameras. He thought he could bluff his way out of it. "You tell me right now," Alex demanded. Okay, I'll tell you." The man was too scared to lie anymore. "We were taking her to the car, but someone jumped out on us and knocked us down. By the time we could react, he and the girl were already gone." Vivian and Alex's hearts sank when they heard that Monica had been snatched away by someone else. "You must know who it was. I beg you, please stop hitting me. We really don't know who he was. He was so fast. We didn't even see him clearly," the man said tearfully. Alex was At that moment, two police cars arrived. Alex handed the two men over to the officers, who took them to the police station in one car, leaving the other car behind with two other officers. The remaining police officers contacted the traffic department, who told them that on the footage from surveillance cameras, they had been able to spot the suspect taking Monica to a nearby park. Alex, Vivian, and the two police officers went immediately to the park to find them. They had searched fruitlessly for half an hour when suddenly they heard a shout coming from some nearby woods. "Mom, I'm hit," the voice called, then stopped, as if someone had covered the person's mouth. Alex and Vivian both recognized Monica's voice. Vivian faced the direction of the voice and shouted in panic, "Monica!" Alex and the police officers turned around and saw a small copse of trees in front of them. Alex signaled to Vivian to keep quiet. He exchanged glances with the two officers. The three of them moved Vivian behind them and cautiously approached the group of trees. They could hear whispered voices, and he knew that the suspect and Monica were nearby. Suddenly, a bush in front of them moved, and a man in a white mask rushed out. It was Slayer, The masked man whom Alex had injured at the bar a few days previously. Slayer faced Alex and pushed Monica in front of him. "Monica!" Vivian cried out. When she saw her daughter, she tried to rush over to her, but she was stopped by Alex. He looked fearfully at Slayer. He had already witnessed the brutality that this man was capable of, and he knew that this was a very precarious situation. One of them said, "Let go of the little girl right now." Slayer started to say something, but the police had already opened fire. The man was wearing a mask and holding Monica in front of him. In the eyes of the officers, there was no doubt that he was a very dangerous person. Vivian rushed to her and pulled her into her arms, while Alex rushed to Slayer and kneeled on his back to hold him down. "Monica," she cried, but Monica's gaze never left Slayer. She was struggling in her mother's arms to get back to him. "Monica, what's wrong with you? He's a very dangerous man who tried to take you," Vivian said to her. In tears, Monica replied, "No, Slayer isn't a bad guy. He's my friend and Alex is hurting him. Mom, let go of me. I want to see him." Everyone was stunned by her words. They looked at Slayer, who was still being held on the ground by Alex. "Speak now. Why did you kidnap Monica?" Alex asked him angrily. "I didn't. I saved her," he replied. "You're still lying." Alex's methods were too aggressive, so the two police officers stopped him. It was their responsibility to interrogate the suspect. However, Slayer continued to insist that he was the one who saved Monica. At that moment, one of the officers' phones rang. After a short conversation, he ended the call and released Slayer. He explained, "The surveillance camera showed that it all happened exactly as he said. This man defeated the two kidnappers and brought Monica here. He had no intention of harming her. And when he heard us shouting, he hid with her to protect her." Hearing what the officer said and watching how Monica reacted to Slayer, Alex and Vivian knew that they had been wrong about him. Vivian let go of Monica's hand, and she looked at him. She said, "Slayer, are you okay? Are you hurt?" He replied calmly, "Don't worry. The police only shot me with banana bullets. It didn't hurt at all." Monica's face lit up. "Banana bullets?" she asked. She walked up to the two police officers and asked one of them, "Mr. Policeman, can I look at your banana bullets? I want to try one and see if it tastes good." Only then did the two officers realize that Monica had some type of learning disability. They smiled and chatted with her for a while. Before leaving, they asked Alex and Vivian to go to the police station later that day to give their statements. Seeing that Monica seemed very happy with Slayer, Alex was confused. He wondered, what kind of person is this Slayer, and why does he always wear a mask? As if reading Alex's mind, out of the blue, Monica innocently asked Slayer, "Slayer, can you take off your mask so I can see your face?" "No, my appearance will frighten you," he replied. He was caught off guard by her question and took a step back. "It won't, I promise. Please let me see, I'm begging you," Monica said pleadingly as she held Slayer's hand with both of hers. "All right," Slayer finally agreed. Monica smiled happily. She was excited about seeing Slayer without his mask. Alex and Vivian were also watching curiously. They wanted to know more about this man. Slayer slowly took off his mask and revealed his face. "Ah, a ghost!" Monica screamed out in fear and ran to hide behind Vivian, who grabbed Alex's arm tightly. Alex's eyes narrowed. He was also shocked by what he saw. There were white spots on Slayer's face and a large purple birthmark over his left eye. These two colors made his face look terrifying and ugly. "I've scared you," he said sadly when he saw their reactions. He looked forlorn as he grabbed the mask and put it back on his face. "You followed me from Preston University, right?" Alex asked him. He remembered feeling that someone was following him and concluded that it must have been Slayer. "Yes," Slayer nodded sadly. He was aware that ever since Monica had seen his face, she had been hiding behind Vivian. "Why? Are you planning to take revenge on me?" Alex asked frankly. Slayer shook his head slowly. "Although you hurt me the last time we met, I don't blame you. Actually, I've been looking for you," he replied. "Why?" Slayer was quiet for a moment. Although he couldn't see his face, Alex was sure that his lips were trembling. He stuttered. Because... His voice was shaky. "It's okay, just tell me what's on your mind. Say it and I'm sure you'll feel better," Alex said as he patted Slayer on the shoulder. He could tell that he had something he needed to get off his chest. "Because my face is disfigured. Right from when I was young, other kids have always laughed at me. In my town, I was a joke because I wanted to have friends, but no one wanted to play with me. In the end, I was sent to be raised in a monastery, but I was even bullied and mocked there. When I was old enough, I left the monastery to make my own way in life. I tried to get a job, but no one wanted to employ me, and I gave up all hope." "Did Henry save you?" Alex had guessed that this may be the reason that Slayer was working for him. He nodded and continued with his story. "He told me that he could stop people from mocking me. He gave me this mask and told me that if I wear it, I'll be an ordinary person like everyone else and that I'll be able to live a normal life." "Do you think he was lying to you?" Alex asked worriedly, as he looked at Slayer's weird clothes. "At least he stopped me from being mocked by others. I'm much better off now than I was before. I'm satisfied with my life." Slayer looked at Alex and said, "When we met in the bar and I walked toward you with a dagger in my hand, you looked at me as an equal, without any discrimination. I'd never experienced that kind of look before in my life. It felt so good that even though you cut me, I wanted to meet you again. I don't hate you at all." Alex was surprised. He hadn't predicted for a minute that he had unknowingly saved himself that day by looking at this man as an equal. Alex said sadly, "I understand that there are a lot of superficial people around, but you shouldn't be so afraid. If you get back out in society, you'll find that there are plenty of people who don't judge others by their looks." He continued, "I must say it's very dangerous for you to help Henry do these horrible things. Do you really think that he's trying to help you? Or is he just using you for his own gain? Do you think that he even views you as a human being?" "He feeds me and pays me $800 a month. He respects me for my skills and even calls me Slayer. What makes you think that he isn't trying to help me?" Slayer asked Alex in confusion. "Have you seen the ridiculous clothes that he gave you to wear? And have you forgotten that you helped him at the bar? And he thanked you by hitting you on the head?" Alex looked into Slayer's eyes and said, "Wake up, buddy, he's brainwashed you." Slayer said in bewilderment, "He's my savior. I'm not his dog, I'm not." Slayer covered his head with his hands.
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.